All right. Hey, everybody. We want to welcome you to our video interview today. This is Dick and Jonathan Hardy here, and we are glad to have you with us during such a unique time of life, really of history. And, we are ready to just fire away some thoughts and ideas for you today as so many pastors and ministry leaders are wondering, what in the world do we do with COVID-19? You've already seen some different resources out there. And as Dick and I were talking, we thought, man, we need to put some more things together. Some of the things we're going to be sharing today are things that I haven't heard from people yet. And so we're really excited to be with you. But before we do, Dick, how you doing? You're in that area, 65 plus, and
Hey, let's just be a little careful there.
Oh man,
Oh
yeah, no,
man.
that's.
My wife and I, your mother, we're going to go down to Alabama, and my son-in-law is a doc down there, and he says, Dick, it really wouldn't be good for my father-in-law and mother-in-law at 65 to be coming down here and hanging out with a medical professional that's in and out of the germ zone. So
Yeah, safety first.
yeah, and we just got the word here in our community that we're in Greene County, Christian County, apparently are following Kansas City's suit, and we're locking down as of Thursday. So tomorrow, at least at the point of this recording, Pat and I are just going to go scoot around town and have all sorts of fun. So.
Yeah, at 65, I think you should stay
Hey,
home.
be careful. Hey, yeah, and you better tip everybody off before we get too carried away about those 3 kids in your house and this particular recording.
Yeah, so we just started our lockdown for Kansas City today, actually, and so 30 days of kids at home. My wife's figuring out the homeschool thing now, and the older 2 have done well, but my 3-year-old has been in the office throughout the day today, so we may have some surprise visitors here.
She wants to come see Grandpa.
Yeah, she wants to see Grandpa. So, well, let's get down to business.
Go.
We have a lot to cover today.
You bet.
A lot of hopefully helpful things for you. I want to just kind of set the stage with a little bit of what we're going to be covering. So a lot of the things that we talk about, you may have already heard, you may have been thinking about, and there's going to be some things that you probably haven't been thinking about. And we recognize that everyone's at different spectrums in terms of their preparedness for dealing with these issues. Some people, you've kind of gotten things figured out. Others of you are still trying to figure it out. And our hope is to be able to provide tools for you, no matter the size of your church, no matter how prepared or unprepared you still feel as of today, that you'll be able to have the tools you need to be able to move forward with where we're at now, knowing that this is not just over here in another few days, that we have several more weeks of churches not meeting. And so, we're going to be talking about how do we still fulfill the mission that we are called to accomplish as pastors, ministry leaders, as a church, knowing that we're all confined to our homes right now.
Yeah.
What do you do with giving? This is one of the things, there's people out there talking about that, but we need to get this out there. What do we do? How do we get this thing going? How do you pay the bills when expenses are higher than income because of the decreased giving?
Yeah.
What can we do here? We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about what happens with the personnel. If you happen to have a church that has a staff member or multiple staff members besides yourself, what are we going to do? How do we approach this? And of course, a lot of people are talking about the church online thing right now. We'll cover that a little bit. But then what about after this whole thing is over? The reality is that there is going to be a period of time when COVID-19 is over.
Yeah.
And so then
what are we going to do? Yeah.
And what are we doing now to prepare for that? We're going to be talking about that as well. And so I'm really excited to go through a lot of this content here today. And we're going to fire away. We're going to give you ideas. We're going to make this practical. And hopefully you will find some nuggets of truth and help through it. And so, Dick, let's go.
Ready to go. One of the things.
13, key areas of concern for pastors. Now, as another quick preface on this, we sent out an email, and if you're on our email list, you received it. If you're not on the email list, go to Leaders.Church and sign up. You can get on the email list. But one of the things we sent out was just asking, hey, we wanted to get people's input. We had hundreds of people responding. I don't even know the total number. It doesn't matter. we just had hundreds. So we kind of boiled it all down
Right.
to what we are calling the top 13 key areas of concern. Certainly there's nuances of these 13. Others would be out there that we aren't covering today, but these are kind of the big keys that we were finding common threads through all of the comments people were sending in. So with that being said, Dick, let's go ahead and tackle the first area here.
And one of the things I want to jump off of that, Jonathan. One of the things, I'm a numbers guy, and you are as well. I want you to know we really took this serious in the sense of we want to be able to talk to the needs that you at the pastorate are facing, and we've got over 24 pages of notes, type single spaced, of comments, observations, and that's where these 13 rose to the top. We're not saying this is an exhaustive list, but it's an important list. And they're clearly, these are 13 things that we think are front and center for a lot of pastors. And the first one really kind of jumped up at me, had not been on my radar prior to this, but it's like no-brainer. And that is mission. I mean, when I got that email in from the pastor is, what do I do when I still have this burning desire to reach people for Jesus? Mm-hmm. So there's this piece, we're going to talk about money, we're going to talk about care of the flock and so on. But the reality is he was really addressing keeping your eye on the ball. That's a role of leadership, is while everything's swirling around you, you've got to keep your eye on the ball. And the ball is our mission, to reach spiritually lost people with the gospel. Outside of COVID-19 and during COVID-19, people still need Jesus. So, we're going to talk about a lot of nuts and bolts things here, and we're going to get you some real practice. We're going to get you links that are going to be helpful to you. But we want you to focus while you're doing this, and you got to help the congregation do this, on your need to continue to spread the gospel.
Well, and I'll chime in on that I know even personally, that's hard right now, because I feel like right now, all my focus has been on taking care of my family. Making sure we've got the toilet paper, that we've got the food, that we've got what we need, especially knowing that we've got this lockdown coming, which obviously started. And every person, including you watching this, has to be doing those things.
Exactly.
Taking care of your family. People in your church have to take care of their families. And so everyone's kind of focused on themselves right now, which isn't a bad thing. That's not a wrong thing. But
don't forget,
we can't forget that we also have to be thinking about, okay, how can we care for the people in our neighborhood? How can are there things we could do, use this time, not as a crisis time, but as an opportunity time to go spread the love of God. Maybe it's, going door to door and, putting mailers out, or I don't know.
This is the opportunity for the church to be the church. This can be the church's greatest hour. In your community, small church or large, this can be the opportunity to touch people at points you would never touch them otherwise. Because people are responsive. And so this is going to be a great opportunity. Now, one of the things that pastors are navigating is this issue of fear and uncertainty. Now, you're human. You may be fearful. All of us have uncertainty about what this is going to be and where is it going to land. But our role as a leader, as a pastor, is to help pastor people through fear and uncertainty. We do not live with a spirit of fear. God did not create that in us. We have the strength of the Lord. And part of what our role as a leader is to help people in the congregation. Pastor, I'm afraid of this, or I'm afraid. Okay, that's okay. Don't dismiss them like they shouldn't feel that way, but help bring strength to them. Help them understand that we have a stronger power with the Lord with us. One of the very practical things that's going to happen relative to mission, you think about it, you're not going to be able to baptize people. So if you're a church that baptizes on a regular basis, and we certainly would encourage that, during this time you're not.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Just put them on hold and think ahead to when this is over. You're going to be able to put together one ripping great baptism of all this is backed up. It's just the reality of what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
All related to us pointing people to Jesus. So, Anyway.
No, I think that's great.
Jonathan, why don't you take us to that next one here? There's a big one that's on everybody's mind.
Yeah, this is huge, and it's the subject of giving. Giving. I mean, just call it what it is. Without giving, the churches aren't going to be able to function in the way that they've been functioning. And so, I know this for a lot of pastors is a real concern, and they're not even thinking just about their own personal salaries if the church is, paying them as a pastor or staff even, but just even paying the bills and all those things. And so, giving is massive. And unfortunately, there's a lot of churches that did not have online giving set up prior to this whole issue. And obviously now, they're more than ever, people are seeing the need for online giving. And if you didn't, that's okay. Don't get down on yourself. But we got to move forward because we're not going back to church this coming Sunday.
Right.
So, we can get online giving going, in a matter of days, and you might not have it for this coming Sunday, but certainly you could for the next Sunday.
Right.
It just depends on how fast everything can move for you, but getting that set up is important. Now, we're actually going to include a link down here accompanying this video where you can sign up for one of the resources that we recommend for online giving. And this is a partner of ours, Catalyst Giving. And there's a number of giving platforms out there. We have personal relationship with Catalyst, and Dick and Anthony especially are good friends.
We go back probably 15, 18 years, something like that.
Yeah. So there's that history there. But you can use whatever one you want. Here's the thing though, you want to get online giving figured out, but then you also want to get recurring giving and teaching your people how to set up recurring giving. And for some, you may say, well, I don't even know where to begin. Well, if you go work with one of these, Catalyst Giving or any other giving platform, they're going to help you get set up, and they're going to be able to show you how to do all this. And so it's it may feel daunting, but it's not. You just take your time, and if you need help, find people that can help you. Certainly, the giving platforms will provide the assistance as well. But you want to encourage recurring giving. Now more than ever, people are seeing the need for recurring giving because it's just on autopilot, and people just set it up, and then that way it's just set it and forget it. And that is helpful, especially for churches right now,
right? Because
you want to make sure that the giving's coming in, and so teaching the importance on that. And there's other ways you can still collect offerings right now besides online giving. Some people don't like online giving because there's merchant fees, and hey, I get that. But in our digital age, I tend to feel that churches actually probably bring in more income
exactly
through the online giving because they're making it easier for people. So even after you subtract out the merchant fees, than if you did not offer online giving at all. I'll use our church as an example. I'm no longer part of the leadership team, but up to the point that I still was part of the leadership team here this last fall and winter, I saw our church, I think, had 55 on average per month, 55% of the giving was coming in online. Maybe even some months it was like 60%. And so you figure, would all 60% of the church, or that 55%, would they all be giving cash and check and offering? Well, no, the reality is they wouldn't be. And so that little charge of merchant fees, not the end of the world. I know that it's hard to, but I just feel confident in that. Just don't let that scare you, I guess is what I'm saying.
And let me just reinforce this a little bit and create a clear delineation between some of our terms here. First of all, the time for you to set up your online giving is at the end of this video.
Yeah.
So watch the video and then click the link and get started. We've talked to Anthony, and we've pressed him. How fast can you get this turned around? Can you do it in 24 hours? Well, no, we can't do it in 24 hours, but we can in a matter of a few days.
Yeah.
You've got to start.
Yep.
And you can't just keep talking about it. You have to start.
Yep.
And getting that set up. Now, Jonathan talked about the recurring giving.
Yeah.
Let me make sure you understand the difference between someone who gives online and someone who sets up recurring giving. So I may say, hey, I want to give $200 to my church. So I go online, and my church has the ability for me to just make a contribution online, either with a credit card, a debit card, or through my bank account. And boom, I make a $200 contribution to my church. Now, that's wonderful. We want that. But what you really want me saying, hey, my wife and I normally would pay, say, $400 a month, let's say $200 every other week in tithes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to set up an auto draft from my checking account every 2 weeks to pull $200.
Yeah.
That's the point Jonathan talked about.
Could be a credit card
Could
too.
be a credit card. Is what it,
yeah.
So but you just set it and it runs.
Yeah.
So if you're in the north, you know what happens. Jonathan and I lived in the north for a lot of years. Much of his growing up was in the north, and boom, you get pounded with a couple of snow days. Guess what? Income tanks.
Yeah.
We're in what we're in right now.
Yeah.
So you want to encourage recurring giving. You not only want to set up online giving, but when you talk to your people, just talk to them. For most of the younger ones, the under 40s, they don't even have. They're paying this way all the time. They're doing bill pay. So I just want to reinforce. I don't need to belabor it, but an online gift versus recurring gift, you want the recurring giving happening all the time.
Yeah.
What's another way, Jonathan, that churches can encourage giving?
Well, I want to sidebar real fast and let those of our Leaders.Church members know that inside the membership, we have a video series called Cultivating Generosity.
Oh my.
And that's a great series. It's 4 videos chock full. I mean, just loaded with ideas and thoughts of how to stir it up, how to get all that stuff going and increase your online giving, your recurring giving. And now it's not necessarily talking specifically about COVID-19 type crisis, but just in general, what you can do. And so a lot of the principles in there you can apply now. So if you're a member, make sure to check that out, Cultivating Generosity. And in fact, we have another series in there that Pastor Rob Ketterling did, and it's four videos of him, I think, it's called Growing Giving. So there's 5 videos.
Yeah, Growing Giving.
And that's a whole different approach, but both are excellent video series that I'd encourage you to jump in and look at. So if you're a member, make sure to check those out. Now,
also, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's a checklist that accompanies the Cultivating Generosity video series, and we're making that available even if you're not a member to get this generosity checklist. And so we're going to have a link here next with the video for the generosity checklist, so you can check that out. And so if you're not a member, you still can get some of these tips and tactics of things. And Dick, how many different ideas are in that?
Well, there are a total of 37 in the Cultivating Generosity video series. There are 30 in the checklist.
Yeah.
The checklist and the video series will, as you can tell, 30 and 37. By and large, it's going to track right down together. And and this is, by the way, Pastor, you won't do this overnight. You will not do this in a matter of a few days. This is, I'm going to use the word painstaking, not in a bad way, but if you're going to make this work, it's diligent, paying attention to point 1, point 2, point 3. And we walk you through what to do if you're doing something that's on the checklist, or if you're not doing something that's on the checklist. Well, obviously you need to start doing it.
Yeah.
But if you are doing something on the checklist, then we have you quantify it and then ask yourself, what can you do to improve that quantity. Jonathan, you just referenced your Summit Park did 55%.
Yeah.
So the question for Summit Park is, what can Summit Park do to move from 55 to 60%?
Right.
So if you're at 0, you can say, what do we need to do to go from 0 to 10%? If you're at 15%, what do we do to do 15 to 25? You see what I'm talking about? So in every point, you're going to get stronger. The church is going to gain more money. You're going to increase the strength of ministry because you're cultivating generosity. So anyway, don't get me all going here on this.
And I know we're spending a little more time on this particular area than we will on some of the other ones coming up here. But this is one of those things where for some churches, if they don't get this figured out, they could fold.
Right.
And so that's why we want to take a little time. Now, I recognize some people, already have this set up. So this is basic. And if so, hang on, because we've got some other things coming here. But real quick, Dick, what about how do you approach it with people who are going to push back on the online giving concept?
I think this is where you're going to need to step up with spiritual leadership and talk about the importance of taking advantage of all the tools that are available to us as the church to facilitate the generosity that's in the hearts of people. That's where I'd be talking to people. Say, first of all, you don't have to use this. But we're encouraging you to use this because this is God's house.
Yeah.
And God has put us in place, and this did not catch God by surprise. COVID-19 he didn't wake up and say, oh my goodness, where did that come from?
Yeah.
So as a spiritual leader, you want to help, and sometimes you're going to get some of your older folks who are going to have a little trouble with this. They still want to write a check. Bless them. Thank you for the check.
Yeah.
But for those who are able to do it, we're just saying we're making an alternative available that's going to help people give because they can't come to the church. They want to give, and it's going to help the church because we want to sustain the church during this time.
Yeah. Well, and what I like about what you're saying is you're not telling people, hey, we need you to give because we aren't going to pay the bills.
No.
We need you to give because we're in debt.
No. We
need you to give because... No, you need to give because God honors when you give. Exactly. And, use scripture to talk that, so even though we're in a moment where we kind of are maybe like, oh, it feels a little desperate and we need that money right now.
Yep.
If you sell people on give because it's going to pay the bills, like who wants to give to that? That's just like, Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, even in hard times, God honors a faithful, generous giver, and you use scripture, the sowing and reaping, and all the different concepts that the Bible talks about, that's the vision that people want to continue to get behind. Exactly. And so that's huge. Now, last thing on giving real fast. You're not going to have online giving set up maybe for a few days. So what do you do now? Well, you can have people mail their giving to the church. You can have people drop it off at your church facility, assuming that your area is not allowing you to meet in your church facility. And, in a case like where we're at in Kansas City, these aren't really even options. The mailing would be an option, but, basically businesses are closed unless they're considered essential. So, having a drop-off time isn't even really an option, but that could be for you. Maybe where you're at, you could have a drop-off time. So, just using creativity and thoughts, trying to figure out how can we do these things. That's going to be helpful.
Yep.
So now, what I'd like to do, unless you have anything else on giving, Dick, I'd like to shift gears to the paying bills side of things because that's really kind of the third area of concern that we want to be addressing. And the reality is, right now, for some churches, expenses are higher than income. So what do they do?
Well, we've talked at length about this on other videos, Jonathan. In fact, we created a budget cut interview that we did. I don't know, how long ago did we do that? 6 months ago? Was it longer than that? Or anyway?
But we're making the PDF of that put together available.
Yeah, we've got a PDF of that that's available to you just down here in the notes below. You'll be able to access that PDF on the, I think there were 13 budget cut ideas, and the interview will be available to you. So if you want to drill in tighter as to what Jonathan and I would recommend in terms of budget cut ideas, we certainly can do that. And we're not gonna rehash that entire video, but I will tell you, the two big pieces of your budget are your income and your expenses. Yeah. And in both cases, we've just talked about how you could increase your income. You need to pay attention to your income. Yes, I understand it's wobbling, slipping, but those things we talked about, by the way, in this previous point, they're not going to change things overnight, but they will change things very positively as you continue to go out weeks and months down the line. But when you come over to the expense side of things, Jonathan, that's always the part that pastors just hate, dealing with budget cuts. I mean, goodness sakes, right. You start sounding like the federal government talks. Now, the federal government doesn't do it, but they use this talk of cutting the budget. Well, when you're in the real world of cutting the budget in your church, that is not so fun. But one of the things I would do is I would put in order. Get your treasurer to give you your financial statement for the last month, the last quarter, and begin to create big buckets of how you spend your money. Certainly compensation for the pastor, your utility bills, your mortgage on the property, maybe your ministries, just big bucket items, and look at those and say, are there places where we can trim a dollar here, trim a dollar there? Yeah. And one of the greatest ways to trim a budget is to do that, is to trim it. Not go in and say, oh man, we're going to cut the utility bill in half. Yeah. Because unless you're going to stop heating the building or cooling the building at the level you have been used to it, I mean, you can make adjustments. You don't just cut the utility bill in half. Yeah. But if you'll pay attention and trim here, trim there, you'll be amazed at how much you can pull out of it. We also talk in that video of doing an across-the-board reduction. Maybe you say, okay, we're going to take 1% and drop all the way off. Now, some of you right now, when I said that, you're laughing because you're saying 1%. Right. I'm dying. We don't have any money coming in, and I understand you got to go more aggressively at it. But trimming, cutting, removing expenses, and here's the term. Don't use this term. We're going to cut non-essential expenses. Yeah. Because nobody thinks that their budget is non-essential. Yeah. Everybody thinks there's. So what you want to do is you want to create this sense with the whole body, all of your leadership, all your board. If you have staff, your staff members, your key lay leaders, that we're all in this together, and you as the pastor need to lead them through trimming the budget.
Yep. And worst case scenario, you joke about the 1% thing, but we might just have to freeze some spending and just say, hey, no spending except for paying the mortgage, paying utilities. And
you have to say to people, even that this budget item was approved. Right. You say, no, it's frozen. Everything stops. Yeah.
So, and I think people get it.
They get it, yeah.
But sometimes you just have to explain it and make it ultra clear. Yeah. Like when we say no spending, that means literally no spending. Yeah. And maybe even implement where you have to have an approval if you're going to try to spend something. And so, but the reality is, you're going to have to probably try to figure out that.
You are going to have to. Yep.
So obviously, if you can increase the income through some online giving and some of these things we talked about, that's going to help you so you don't have to cut as much.
And then trim the expenses, and that's going to give you that margin you need to help you.
Yeah. So, and again, take a look at that PDF. It's a free PDF there. There's a link here with this video, and hopefully that's helpful for you. Yeah. So
I'm ready to make a shift. You ready to shift gears?
Yeah. What's next?
Well, we've talked about those last couple of things. We talked about income and expenses and giving, and that's the nuts and bolts stuff. I want to talk a minute about you. You're leading the charge here, and if you're like a bunch of pastors I know, you take this pretty seriously. You take God's call on your life as a high calling, and you've given yourself to this church that the Lord's called you to.
Yep.
and you believe that this body of believers in your community is the bride of Christ, the big C, your small c, the church. But if you don't take care of yourself, you and the church are in for a world of hurt.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give you some basic things. This is, the young guy was smarting off about the 65-year-old, but the 65-year-old, just some experience that walks down the line will tell you, if you listen to what old Uncle Dick is going to tell you right now, this is going to save your bacon. Number one, you've had a Sabbath, whether you were taking it or not, you better take your Sabbath.
Yeah.
Oh, but Dick, I got people, I got to get to people, well, let me tell you something. If you're shot emotionally and in every other way, physically, you're not going to take care of anybody. Why is it? I wish I had my little mask thing here. Why is it when you're in the airplane and they tell you about the air thing dropping, who do they tell you to put it on first?
Yeah, exactly.
Put it on yourself first. Oh, but I got my little kid. Why yourself? Because you have to be taken care of in order to take care of the little kid.
Yep.
And Pastor, I'm just telling you, take your Sabbath.
Yep.
I understand it's all hands on deck, but you better find time to rest. Number two, your role in the ministry. There's this emotional, spiritual weight that sits on your shoulders and never leaves.
Mm-hmm.
The responsibility for your church is there all the time. And, I've had it happen a few times where board members in churches I've been at, these guys take these 2 or 3 week vacations. I'm still out at the shop and I got to keep working. Well, we're not saying that you as a pastor are better than your board member who works at the shop or the business downtown. But there's a uniqueness about the call of God to ministry. And there's this weight, spiritual weight that sits on your shoulders. You need to take care of yourself emotionally.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're going to find yourself burning out.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, we're going to see stories of pastors that just they burned the candle at all ends, and all of a sudden they crashed and burned. I don't want that to happen. Jonathan does not want that to happen for you. You have to take care of yourself.
Well, and right now, you're even talking about just in general how this is a reality for pastors week to week.
Yeah.
Then you throw COVID-19 in the mix.
There. Yeah.
And all the things that we've talked about and we're going to be talking about here are extra pressure that are just compiling to the point where you got to make sure you don't crack through this COVID-19 pressure. And you might not feel it right now. If you don't, that's amazing. But we don't want you to ever feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, even 2-3 months down the road. And so that's why we just, we're kind of beating that horse a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and if you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody.
Yes.
I've been around the block long enough. No, there have been times in my life I had to talk to somebody. Yeah, I know it's not the man thing to do, because we're tough guys. Well, you're a tough guy, stupid guy that won't talk to somebody. So knock off the macho if you think that you can do it all. You can't do it all. Right. And find somebody. Get on the phone with somebody. If you're part of a denomination, lots of denominations have helplines. Get on the phone and talk to them. You can do it confidentially. And if you don't, just Google them. You can find places that will talk to you that take care of emotional health, spiritual health.
Yeah.
Fisk, you're going to say something, Jonathan?
Well, I was going to say on the spiritual side of things that I recognize even for my own life right now, the kids are home and they're staying home. Of course, I work here at home as well. And so making sure it's kind of caused me to have to rethink my schedule.
Yeah.
And so you may have that as well. And to take the time to do it.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You need to make sure you're taking that time personally with the Lord, where you're regular communing with God. I think you were going to mention physical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, doing what you can exercise-wise is going to be helpful, even if you can't be super social with people and out and about. I've started the last couple of days, I've started going for a run in the morning, and I used to go to the gym, but I can't go to the gym now. And so we're going for a run with morning, bringing the kids with me and on the bike.
Yeah.
And so they're bike riding, and that's actually been great for the family because they've been more amicable in the morning and like happy after. and they're not sitting in front of the TV watching cartoons.
Well,
So
I'll tell you, I love jumping in the pool, and we're part of a rec city rec club here in town. And when they canceled, then all of a sudden I can't jump in the pool.
yeah,
Now my wife's asked me if I'm going to be able to go out biking. So you're able to go running even during the lockdown. So I'm hoping they're going to let me go out on my
they allow
bike.
for exercise, at least here. So
But I
I'm
even
sure.
go out and walk.
Yep.
Before I shot this interview, I went out and walked the block just to get the blood moving.
Yeah. And so you got to do whatever you got to do.
And I would say relationally too. Now we're going to get caught up in this thought that, well, we can't relate because we can't touch. No, you can relate. Yeah. You know, my wife the other day talked to a girlfriend of hers that were in their wedding years ago, and just got on the phone. And I texted a buddy of mine up in Iowa. Hey, Doug, just thinking about you, man. And it was great, just reflecting the great years. You can connect with people by text. That's the great part of technology today. You need to be connecting with people for your health.
Yeah, and intentional about it.
And being intentional about it. Yeah. Let's go to the next one, and that is we had a number of guys have asked and gals have asked us about, okay, how do I deal with the potential downsizing of staff? Now, right. A lot of guys don't have staff, so you don't have to worry. You're not going to fire yourself, but maybe you got a youth pastor or an admin or assistant somehow, and you're seeing the handwriting on the wall that you're going to have to do something on that because that's a big money item. Let me tell you, that's the last resort. Yeah. When you're dealing with budget stuff, we probably should have talked about it just in front of this piece that we just talked about with the pastor themselves. But this is last resort. I want to encourage you to deep dive into every other part of your budget. Do everything you can to find nickels and dimes here and there to keep somebody who works for you. I've never yet found a youth pastor or kids pastor that's making too much money. So they're living on the low end of compensation anyway. Yeah. So now at the end of the day, you may have to do the very difficult thing of either cutting someone back to part-time or cutting their hours in different ways or their compensation. But I will say, even when you do that, that could sometimes be almost more painful than releasing them. Now, I know if you're that person, you want to say, I want at least a little money coming in, but do everything you can to be open with your staff member. That's a key here. Make sure they know you're a last resort kind of guy. Mm-hmm. You're not the kind of pastor that says, I'm going to come in and slice and dice people first. Yeah. If we have to deal with precious human resource, a staff member, it's the last resort. So, again, do your budget cut things first, work your income, and then if you absolutely have to trim, be sure you're talking to a staff member well in advance of having to do that. So everybody wants that kind of courtesy. Yeah, let me also talk to you about something that jumped at me yesterday. I had a couple pastors throw this to me, and that is missionary support. I've had a couple of missionaries throw it to me because they're on the receiving end of your regular monthly giving. Yeah. I really want to encourage you to be talking to your missionaries right now. Don't ignore your missionaries. Don't give them the silent treatment. Be honest with them. Yeah. If your income has dropped 40%, say so to your missionaries. Your missionaries aren't stupid. They get it. They may be in Bolivia or Kenya, but they know what's going on. Yep. And, of course, they're having to make adjustments with their budgets. Do everything you can. And I'm going to say this to you in a sense of God will honor you doing everything you can to fulfill and exceed the commitments you've made to missionaries. Yeah, I get it. When you got to trim, you got to trim. Yeah. But talk to them. Don't avoid them. Be honest with them. And then in all cases, and I would trim a monthly missionary budget before I'd cut it.
Yeah, that's good.
So if you've got 4 missionaries, you're giving them, $50 a month. Rather than cut 2 of them out and leave the others at $50, I mean, I'd take all of them down to $25 a month.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
You're sharing the pain, but everybody is still keeping something.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Jonathan, next one.
All right, well, let me do a fast recap because
Okay.
we've been firing a lot. So the first thing we talked about is giving, or the mission, keeping your eye on the ball. Second thing is giving. Third thing is paying the bills. Fourth thing was taking care of yourself. Fifth area of concern is related to downsizing and personnel and staffing and all that. Sixth thing was missionary support. Now the seventh area of concern, a lot of pastors talked about, relates to the technical components of church online. And this is a whole new arena for so many, especially for those who didn't have live streaming prior to this. And whether you have had live streaming before or not, in any event, you're online now. I mean, if you're going to be teaching at all and doing any kind of devotionals or regular preaching at all, it's got to be online. And so here's kind of where we're at in our recommendation for you. We don't recommend at this point you try to figure out the live streaming thing.
No.
I don't think that's the best move for most churches. Now, if you have some tech savvy people, or if you're tech savvy and you can get this thing up and running and working smoothly and without hiccups, then hey, so be it. But the reality is you can accomplish teaching people the Word of God still. And if you do sermon series, if you do expositional preaching, or whatever study you're in right now, you can keep that going. And it's really not that hard. And we're going to give you actually some tools that's going to help you to do it. But before we dive into that, basically what our recommendation is just get something up online. Don't try to do the live streaming. Don't try to get it all figured out. Those tools are great, and we are all about live streaming down the road. And when that time comes for you to get live streaming going, but for this Sunday, it might not be the best use of your time. Rather, what we would suggest is record a video of yourself, and we're going to put in the notes here a link to another page where you can watch a tutorial of how to post things online. So just to summarize, I mean, we're talking about getting your computer. I'm shooting this video. This interview is on the computer. Most people have a computer with a webcam. If you don't have a webcam, but you have a smartphone, use your smartphone. If you don't have either of those, you got some sort of camera, or someone who does. Every person has access to a camera somehow. Use that and record your teaching. Now, you don't even have to do it in your auditorium. You don't have to do it on your stage in your sanctuary. You can literally do it in your I'm in my basement office. I mean, you could do that it doesn't, people aren't as concerned about that background as they are connecting with you as the ministry leader, and the importance of getting the gospel, the Word of God, still communicated, so that way it's speaking to them and their needs of life right now. So what we're going to, and there's a link here to go check out how to get this stuff posted. So you could put it on YouTube. You could put it on, if you have a Facebook page, you could put it there. You could put it on Vimeo. And, just put your videos on Vimeo. And then in any of those things, literally once it's up, just email your people the link to go watch it. And everyone might not watch it at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. And that's okay. I don't think that we have to, it doesn't have to be that way. When we really think about
Wait. We don't have to meet at 10 o'clock on Sunday?
Well,
isn't that in Scripture?
In
that Scripture someplace?
Yeah. What is that? That's Proverbs 32 or something like that.
Right.
So, no, I mean, if you really think about what is the church is us. It's people.
Right.
It's not the building. It's not the service time. And as believers, we're supposed to be together in community with people and gathering together for the teaching of the Word. Well, a little bit tricky to do both right now in our traditional context, but not impossible to do.
Right.
It's just the venue, the method of communication is now online. And so I'm really speaking mostly to those who don't have the live online streaming or those types of platforms set up. And I guess the encouragement is just do something. Don't let it overwhelm you. Don't add more work to your life right now and more pressure and more stress.
You don't need that.
This is easy.
Right.
Record a video on your phone. Have your wife or spouse or family member or friend or somebody record a video of you. If you can't do it on a webcam or something on your own, and teach the Bible. Do and even if it's a little bit more abbreviated, give people valuable content from the Word of God. Maybe even some thoughts that they can use to discussion questions that they can discuss with small group or with their family, with their kids, and use this time, though it's different, to still capitalize on our ability to use online technology to communicate.
Now, be careful with this. Don't get in the comparison mode. Well, all my other buddies, they're going live stream, and they've been live streaming for a year and a half, and they've been telling me I should do it, so now I want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you, I'm a part of a very large church, and we're in a city of probably 150, 200,000 people. And literally, when our small group looked at doing a meeting on Sundays while the pastor was doing online live streaming, you know what one of the biggest concerns was? Whether the video would buffer right.
Yeah, because your internet speed.
The internet speed. So even if you could do it right, you're depending on Herb and Mabel out in the congregation to even have an internet speed, that's a step faster than dial-up.
Yeah.
And and let me just tell you, it's for this time. I just want to reinforce what Jonathan said.
Yeah.
Go with the simple way to get the content out. And hey, you're in a series on Second Corinthians, and you did chapters 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Boom! Do your video on chapter 4, and get that bad boy posted, and email it out. Again, we've got the instructions, the video instruction, how to do that. And then on Sunday morning or Saturday night, email it out to the congregation. I know we don't have to do this at 10 o'clock, but just for the people who are used to that happening, boom, there's the video. I just want to reinforce it. It's great advice for you. Thanks, John. I think you really covered it well.
Yeah. So, and of course, that means you got to make sure you've got people's contact information. You've got their cell phones, you've got their emails, so that way you can text to everyone or you can send out a big broadcast email to everyone. But don't, pick your battles. Yeah. And this isn't a battle that it's worth.
No.
This is a headache that you don't need.
Exactly right.
We've got this other link here that you can look to see how simple it is. If you don't even know how to do it, we've got a simple video tutorial to help you.
Do it.
So,
the next one up is the personal relationship with people in the church that might not be flowing with you in terms of what you're trying to do. The overwhelming majority of pastors I talk with are trying to do everything that local, state, and federal officials are asking of them. I'm not hearing anybody get into, the Democrats do this, the Republicans do this. This is truly wartime kind of actions that we're taking against this disease. Now, when you have someone in the church say, I don't think the government should be telling us what to do, bless God, that's just not right. There's separation of church and state. Your role is going to be to help coach people along to the understanding. Go ahead, get yourself into Romans 13, 1-7, and just digest it yourself and help. Don't beat people up over the head with it, but help bring them along. That we are working in concert with our community to help bring health to our community. This is the time for, if any organization is going to model cooperation and leadership, it's us. It's the church. We don't need the church running sideways to government leaders. And honestly, your mayor, your county commissioners, your health commission folks, guess what? They go to Walmart and, when things aren't on lockdown, they eat at the same restaurants. Kids go to the same schools as you. So talk to them. As a pastor, you know what you can do? You can pick up your phone. You can talk to your mayor. Well, Dick, you don't know our mayor. Well, during this time. Do
Yeah.
everything you can to offer to help them. And
Mm.
at the same time, communicate to the people in your church
Yeah.
that are just not buying into this,
Yeah.
that you're going to help the community and call on them to help the community as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's a great opportunity to partner with the community and be a blessing and
be the
show
church.
the love of Jesus,
Be the church.
be the witness that
Yep.
we should be.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's way different than if the government were asking us to not share the gospel anymore.
Right.
Or, they're
That's
trying
a different
to
story.
Right. What's that?
That's a different story.
Different story.
Yeah.
But that's not what's happening here. We're fighting a virus. We're trying to protect people, protect the community. And I saw there was some church that still met, and they were like going against. There was some news story or something. They were going against the government officials and mayor. And all that does is say that
negative.
Yeah, it's negative. It looks bad. It just doesn't help Christians in our witness, in our ability. Rather, let's say, hey, not only are we going to stand by what you want, how can we get in and help? And so, yeah.
And believe me, most organizations are not able to do what the church can do.
Yeah.
We have a ready-built volunteer corps that could step up for the community like virtually no other organization in the community.
Yeah.
So
that is so.
Use this shutdown time while you're connecting in other ways to be the church and touch people. So
anyway, it's all about people's mindset.
It is.
And
if
you can help them frame the mindset the right way,
exactly.
that's going to be huge.
What's the ninth one, Jonathan?
Yeah. So the next one is genuinely dealing with the needs of kids and youth. This has been one of the hot topics people have asked about and talked about, because this is a big reality for families. Sunday morning comes, and I had it this Sunday morning. I've got the kids. We're all in the living room, and we tried to put on some worship songs, and we just pulled up YouTube and had some worship songs. We watched a little bit of our church's, little online service that we had put together. And then our kids team actually put it was like a little mini kids service time for them. So we watched that as a family, and they did a great job with it.
Yeah.
The point is, you got to figure it out. What can you do to provide something for your kids? You can't just leave parents out there hanging to dry. And at the same time, obviously, we can't be everything we need to be because we're not present. So finding that medium of, here's some things we can do.
Yeah.
And we have a link here to another page on the website where Caleb Rankin, who's one of our partners and did kids ministry as a pastor for years, and has an excellent training and just a tutorial. It's not very long at all, but it's excellent material for you on how to implement some ideas that you can take immediately for this Sunday and put into practice to help be able to speak to some of the needs of the kids and the youth in your congregation and really to their families.
Yeah, and Caleb has done a great job being able, whether you're a small church, medium church, large church, you're going to be able to do exactly what Caleb suggests on there. We're thrilled. We're going to be doing some partnering with Caleb. The guy's I think he's been at it for 12, 14 years, and we've got a great resource coming down the pike you're going to be hearing about in the weeks and months to come from Church University. But I'm just telling you, this guy knows what he's talking about. It's clean, simple, and you'll say, oh, I could do that. And again, it's the link is the video is going to be down below. So next one, Jonathan.
All right, what are we on, number 10?
Number 10.
Communication with people. This is just another aspect. We kind of talked about touch points and stuff a little bit, relational stuff, but having communication with people, your leaders and the church as a whole. This is an important time where we have to stay in contact with people, and you don't want people just slipping through the cracks. You don't want people being left untouched. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you have these points of communication. And so you've got to figure out, how can we communicate with people? How can we keep in touch with people? One of the ways to do that Well, first of all, let me distinguish. There's leaders that you have to be taking care of and communicating with, and then the leaders of the different ministries. You'll want to really mobilize them to be helping you as a pastor take care of the body.
Mm-hmm.
One person can't, really care for everyone, and we're going to talk a little bit more about caring for people here in a moment. But there's different ways you can do that. One of those is through Zoom, and I know a lot of churches are using Zoom right now, where it's a little video chat where you can have multiple people on the video chat together, kind of like in a little video meeting room, just like we are here, and have more than two people even. And it's a great way to connect with people, connect with your leaders, just to keep everyone up to speed. This is a great, important time for you as the ministry leader to be communicating to them so they're in the loop of what's going on. What are you thinking? When is the church going to start meeting in person again? All of these different things, questions people are going to be having. And so we've actually got a link here with a tutorial from one of our
team members,
Leaders.Church staff, Ryan Sparks, who's going to be helping show you just even the basics. If you don't even know Zoom, if this is out of your league, if you're not a technology person, we've got a very basic training tutorial on what do you do, how do you get this set up. So click that link, make sure that you check that out. You're going to want to be touching base with the board members. If you have staff, it's with staff, or it's the key volunteers. All these people, you need to be making sure that you're communicating and sharing what's going on in the church. What are you thinking? What's coming down the pipeline here?
So even that link that you just referenced, Pastor, get it to the board members and staff members so they can all see how to do it themselves if they're not tech savvy.
Yep, absolutely. And you even want to encourage your small group leaders, or if you have Sunday classes, those folks to be able to be touching base with the people that are part of their groups,
right?
And they can use Zoom,
right? And
so you can pass that along to them as well. Now, I will say, if you're not tech savvy, or if technology is one of the tools, but it's not the only tool you're going to use, you can still go the traditional route of picking up the phone and making the calls. And so, make sure you've got your full list of your roster of your people that are either in your group or in the church as a whole or whatever. And here's what I'd encourage you to do, is mobilize people. Our job as ministry leaders is to equip the saints for doing the ministry. It's not to do the ministry ourselves, although we are doing ministry, but it's to equip people to do ministry. And we talk about that in the 5-Day Leadership Challenge, actually. It's one of the key focuses, and we really break down some unconventional thoughts in regard to that. And we can even include a link here to that. That's free. Another free resource for you, 5-Day Leadership Challenge. I think it's Leaders.Church/challenge. But the idea is you might even do like a phone blitz, and you might get 10 people, 10 of your key people, to each make 10 phone calls. Well, right there, you just covered 100 people. So if you have a church that's got 100 adults that are part of the church to some degree, well, there you go. It's an easy way. Yep. And so you're just communicating, letting them know you're available and all that. So communication is key. Phone, text, email, video chats like Zoom or other resources are all important tools that you should be looking into.
Now, I remember one of the emails I got yesterday, and the pastor was saying, well, I have to be able to talk to my people. I don't know what to do. I have to be able to. This is going to be a time for you to make this turn that Jonathan is referencing. If you want your church to grow, guess what? There is going to be life after COVID-19 for the church. And the Lord has given you a wonderful opportunity to do exactly what Jonathan just referenced. Mobilize key volunteers. And by the way, you'll get people say, I hate the call. I hate the phone. Guess what? You make 10 phone calls. Guess how many people you're going to talk to?
Right.
Yeah. Two?
Yeah,
3?
Maybe. Yeah.
I'll bet almost none of your people will talk to 4 people. They're going to be leaving voicemail all over the place. And guess what? Voicemail's great.
Voicemail's great.
Hey, I got a voicemail from Pastor Tom. Hey, I got, hey, I got a voicemail from Bill here. He's over the church board. The point is touch people. I'm at a church of probably 15,000 people right now. Last week I got 2 phone calls from staff members.
Yeah.
Checking in on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm just reinforcing what you're saying.
Yeah.
So there you go, John.
Absolutely. Okay. What's next? What's number 11?
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about small groups. I'll have pastors say to me, man, I got to figure out a way to either 2 things, either mobilize our small groups, and how do I get them to connect? At first we had this groups of nothing more, 10 or less, and like our life group is 14. Well, so I thought, well, okay, we can do 7 of us on the north side and 7 of us on the south side, and then eventually, of course, that all went bye-bye.
Yeah.
So, but the point is, you either have small groups or you don't. Let's talk through if you have small groups. If you have small groups, no, let's do the other way first. If you don't have small groups, you have no mechanism in there for people to meet in small groups. I would encourage you, this is an all hands on deck time now. Your board members, if you have a staff member or 2, any key lay leaders, pull them together on a conference call. Boy, that's another thing, Jonathan, we probably ought to mention, that free conference call where they could get everybody. We'll see if I'm
freeconferencecall.com.
Yeah, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here now, but we'll try to leave a link there for you where you can get a conference call of 5, 6 people together, and in that you ask them to talk to you, divvy up basically the church. Hey Bill, hey Mary, hey Sue, hey Bob, can you talk about 5 or 6 of your friends, and you do 5 or 6, and you do 8 or 10, and blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, we're going to divvy up the whole church, and we're going to create kind of COVID, let's call them COVID small groups.
There we go.
And those small groups, and you're training the leader, and you're doing this, of course, all remote. Maybe you make a little video that you send out to everybody, but training them how they're going to lead their particular group of the small group of the church. Now, so now everybody's got small groups. With your small group, what you want to do is you want them to be a couple things I would be doing. If you're in a church where you do live stream, then you want your life group to meet when you're live streaming. Our life group has done that last Wednesday and this past Sunday. And I mean to tell you, it was absolutely wonderful. And you know what we're doing? We're texting.
Yeah.
We're texting during the whole message. Oh my goodness! Did you catch that point number 2 when Pastor referenced this? Oh my! And somebody will just put a like on it, or somebody will, or a love, and that really spoke to my heart. And then someone in the group will say, I should just rattle off. I shut my phone off, but I should just rattle off some of the, we have got a newer gal in our group right now, and she just says, if you in the groups, this is all by text, if you could only know what it means to me that you're all praying for me. Yeah. It's been a chance for me, all by text, to challenge the people in our group, because our group is very mature, been believers for a long time, to step up in their prayer life like never before. Cool. Lots of churches are doing prayer and fasting. Ours is as well. And so we talk about in there. And so anytime you're live streaming, encourage your small groups to just live stream with you. If you're watching the video that Jonathan just referenced that you create, then as a small group, you'd encourage your small group leaders to say, hey, listen, everybody watch the video that we're going to send out for this Sunday, and everybody watch it by, Sunday night at 5, and let's just get on, spend 15, 20 minutes talking about what we saw in the video. You'll be amazed where people will begin to comment. What are you doing? You're building community. Yep. You're building a community by text. Now, it may feel foreign if you haven't done much of that, but believe me, once you get into that, you'll be amazed to see what will happen. Yep. You also can have your small groups do the Zoom. Yep. This is, again, where Zoom pops up. If you got 5 or 6 people, 8, 10 people in a small group, everybody gets on Zoom, and you could talk about. Maybe you talk about the video that pastor created, that you as the pastor created. So anyway, those are all ways that you can create a great sense of community within your small groups. And believe me, friend, this is a time where the body needs to pull together. It really is.
Absolutely. Okay, number 12.
Let's talk about the caring for people, especially single moms, elderly, people with unique needs. Here's the reality. People in your church are losing jobs.
Yeah.
And, while hopefully you're going to be able to be fine and continue to be paid by the church, they're losing jobs. We have to be sensitive to that. And just as it was pre or post-COVID, losing a job is an unbelievably painful thing for a family in your church. Yeah. You need to be sensitive to that and care for them. If you're able to be with them in that loss, you're able to, get to their house or be with them. You want to pastor them through that. You want to touch base by text. You want to touch base by voicemail. Call them. Talk to them. This is a chance to mobilize people to touch other people in the church at their points of needs. There's single moms. I'm part of a community health center here in town, and we were part of our organization had to lay off 100 people. Yeah. And in that 100 people, you got to know there were some single moms. Yeah. It's unbelievably painful to have done that. Well, those single moms are in churches across our area. Yeah. And so it's the role of the church to come alongside them, take food to them, care for them, do what you need to do to help them. The elderly, of course, during this time are really shut in, and you want to be very careful with that. You don't want to put anybody at risk, but pay attention to the elderly folks, people with unique needs. All churches have them. And so it's our role as a pastor to help the body minister. Single moms. I'm not doing ministry to single moms. No. But a couple single gals in our life group, they will do ministry to single moms. Yeah. And so it's just smart for the church to mobilize the body to do that. Now, let's talk a little bit about hospital visitation. All hospitals all across the country are in varying modes, and depending on when you're watching this, I can't predict to you what your hospital is doing. But as a pastor, you are a member of the clergy, and you certainly have a right to talk to your hospital about what they're going to allow in terms of you visiting with people and ministering to people, because that's part of your role, even during times of crises. Had a buddy of mine had a very sad situation where his elderly mom, she was a matriarch of the church, passed away a week ago Sunday. Yeah. And it was agonizing to him because you can't do a funeral. Right. So as a pastor, you're going to have to be there for people, even when you can't complete what you normally would complete. Yeah. Earlier on, we talked about leading someone to Jesus, and then it's repent and be baptized, but oops, you can't baptize. Caring for an elderly person, they die. Oh, we're going to care for the family, and you can't do a funeral. Yeah. You're going to have to help people and help the church understand the uniqueness of this time. My buddy's going to be able to do a memorial service, but he just told me of the pain and the awkwardness of mom's died, but all the people can't get together and celebrate. As a pastor, you're going to have to help carry people through that. Yeah. And to me, it can sound like Debbie Downer. It's a wonderful privilege as a pastor to get your arms around people during this time and help them believe we're going to make it. Right. You're going to make it. And it's exciting times for me. Yep. So, last one, Jonathan.
Very good. Let's finish this last one up here. Now, this one I'm actually really excited about because this is one that is future thinking. And the concept is basically on how to build momentum. Because right now, churches feel like a lot of them have lost momentum. And they're kind of trying to figure it out. That's why you're watching this video. We've obviously rattled off a lot of the areas of concern for people. But one of the things we cannot forget about is what happens when this virus is over, when the lockdowns are eliminated, when church doors are opening and people are coming back, because they're going to come back and they're going to come back in droves, and we have to be ready. And if we're not ready, we are missing a massive opportunity to capitalize on the natural momentum that's going to come as a result of this this whole thing. So because people are going to they're going to long for that community. They're going to long to be coming back and seeing each other face to face and hugging and handshaking, and so we've got to make sure that we're ready. One of the ways to do that is to think through now, how can you begin to build momentum for that, and how can you leverage that moment to build momentum for the church? And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to go into that first Sunday back together without a plan. That would be
disaster.
Just a big mistake. So right now, you need to be thinking about, what can we do? What does that look like? And there's probably a million ideas you could come up with. Get some of your board members or your key leaders, or if you have staff, get the staff together and take some time. Even though right now you're like, man, we're just trying to figure this whole thing out. Well, I get that, and you need to do that, but you can't neglect what's coming too.
The future.
It's just kind of like the concept of Easter. You know, so many churches, it's like we work to get ready for Easter. As soon as Easter's done, it's like, let the gas off the pedal. When really, that's when the gas on the pedal should be full blown, because we got to get ready to get people to come back the following week. That's when the momentum is strongest. The same idea is here. When people come back, there's a natural wave of momentum, and the question is, are you going to hop on the wave or are you going to miss the wave? And so we want to encourage you to hop on the wave. Now, if you're a member of Leaders.Church, kind of ironically, before this whole coronavirus thing happened, we put together is it like a 9-part video series?
9 parts.
On the concept of momentum that is now available inside the members area. So if you're a member, check that out. Now, if you're not a member, due to this coronavirus and due to this subject of momentum, Dick and I were just talking, and I thought, well, we want to be able to be a blessing to you and to help you. And so even if you're not a member, we're going to give you limited access to where you can go in and watch all 9 of these videos. And so we're going to give you basically a 14-day window where you can hop in, and you've got 14 days to plow through them. It won't take you much time at all. I mean, you could do all of them in a day. But the idea is we want to give you this resource because you've got to be thinking about this right here. What can we do to get people to build the momentum during this season, to get people coming back, and even the unchurched? You know, there's going to be people who are unchurched that through this time, they lost a loved one. They had something tragic happen, lost the job, whatever. And obviously, you know, as a pastor or ministry leader, that in moments of crisis like this, people are more open to the gospel than almost any other time in their life. And so we've got to be ready.
You know, when you
get ready,
when you think back, for those of you watching that would be old enough to remember 9/11, there was a huge surge back to the church at 9/11, and then it wasn't, but a couple of months later, and people would look back and say, "Well, where'd those people go?" And there's going to be the natural attrition. But there was also the sense that many churches really weren't watching to capitalize, and I'm saying that in a positive way, not a bad way, capitalize on the gift the Lord is bringing to the church in the waves of people. I'm just telling you, friend, you're going to have people coming into your door that wouldn't darken the door before, but they're going to come in when this is over because they realize there's something bigger out there than just this world. There's something bigger than just all the yinging and yanging on cable network and this, and that's the opportunity for us to go what? All the way back to point number 1 and mission. Because we're keeping our eye on the ball,
Yep.
And we everybody on the field is, watching this or that, but we realize we're seeing the whole field, and God sees the whole field, and we're playing the long game. And I'm more excited about this 13th point than any of them. I mean, they're all important, but I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Yep.
You're going to watch it, and we really hope this Leveraging Momentum video series will be helpful to you. Again, those in the membership, you just go in and access it immediately, and you have all that's with it. But we're glad to give you this 14-day access to the others, and if it can be a blessing to you, that's what we want.
Yeah, exactly. So the link's going to be there, and you may even say, "Well, momentum, that's not very spiritual." Well, we talk about that, and so just watch the videos inside there.
Yeah, you'll get it.
We're going to break all that down for you because it's so important for you to make sure that you tap into it. So
exactly.
Just a second, buddy. We had an interruption.
We had it. Finally, man. I'll tell you.
All right. Hey, well, I think we're good to go.
We are.
I hope that this is helpful for you. And if you've got questions, obviously, just email us, support@Leaders.Church. And we want to get answers to. If you got specific needs, questions, nuances, whatever it might be, let us know. We're here for you. We want to help in any way that we can. Obviously, putting into practice some of the things we're talking about, all the links and the resources.
Yep.
We want to help you figure out how can you take such a negative, unfortunate thing and spin it for the good so that you're reaching more and more people with the gospel than you ever imagined. You're building momentum. You're helping people rethink church and realize that the church isn't the building, the church is the people, and all the different things that we've talked about.
Exactly.
God is going to help you do it. We want to be an asset and recess for you in any way that we can. Reach out, and we thank you so much for being with us today on this training, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time. See ya.
Be blessed.